Hi y'all, I'm Mike Peace, and I want to show you today on how you can turn a handle on your Midi lathe. There's some great values out there on tools that come unhandled. There's some great tool manufacturers in the United States, including Doug Thompson, D-Wade Tools, Carter and Son up in Canada. They've got one-way manufacturing. Heck, even over in Great Britain and Sheffield, England, they got some great tools by Sorby that go with their sovereign handle system that you can buy unhandled. So those are all great values in tools. Turning tool handles is simple. It's a pretty basic project for a new wood turner, and you can make it exactly the way you want. If you don't like it, you can always make another one later. Now the way I'm going to show you, it's not the only way, may not be the best way, but I tell you, it does come after doing considerable research and a lot of experience making tool handles, unlike a lot of the newbie YouTubers you see out there. They're saying, hey, watch me, I'm doing this for the very first time. I've made probably close to 100 tool handles, so I've got some experience under my belt. Besides buying tools unhandled, you may also find that you've got a need to replace a broken tool handle, or you may find that you've purchased a tool handle and it's not to your liking. It's too long, it's too short, it's too fat, it's too thin, so make another one. Before we get into the details of making one, let's talk a little bit about design, because I think it's real important to have a concept before you get into it. And let's start with why you'd want to make one versus buying one that's got a fixed handle. And I don't want to go too heavy into that discussion, but you can buy manufactured handles that are interchangeable. They tend to be fairly pricey. They can be very well made. They're usually covered in plastic or rubber. They may have the ability to add lead shot, which personally I've never found to be an issue. Some of them that are aluminum or steel, some folks with arthritis say they tend to feel too cold on their hands in the winter. Wood works well in the summer and the winter. One of the advantages often touted of interchangeable handles are that it makes it easier to take the tool out for sharpening, and that may be true. I started off with fixed handles, so it never was an issue, so it's not a problem I need to solve. Here's an example of a handle insert that uses set screws. Somebody actually fabricated these on their in their shop on a machinist lathe out of aluminum. The small one is 3/8 it's in the handle, and the larger one is 5/8 inch. But that's one option, and you can buy these commercially for $20, $25 from your various wood turning vendors. Interchangeable handle can be very pricey. You can buy a short, inexpensive aluminum ones from China, like this one shown in the picture, for maybe $25. But typically they're going to range from $50 for some nice bowl gouge size handles that use set screws on, upwards of $150 for some really fancy collet systems. And frankly, I just find that kind of expensive. But there are people, that are working for a living that don't have time, and they want to use their limited shop time for turning, and I understand that, and that's a good reason for buying a tool handle. But for most of us that are retired, we've got more time than we got money, so and we also get that pleasure of actually making something ourselves, and you can customize it, making it just the way you want. Let's start with the concept of or the discussion of wood. The wood needs to be dry. You don't want it shrinking on you. You don't want it splitting on you. Most any kind of hardwood will work fine. I've made them out of Bradford pear, maple, cherry, oak, some exotics, some laminated, dogwood. So there's lots of good woods out there. Ash is a good wood. I've made several handles out of ash. In terms of design, you want to get it the right length. I don't want to get into a detailed discussion of handle length. That was in an earlier video you might not have caught. You can check that out where I go into more detailed discussion on length. But generally, inexpensive bowl gouges come with handles that are too small, and sometimes you want handles. Let me give you an example real quick. Spindle handle spindles Murphy's Law. It'll always land on the sharp edge. That's going to need regrinding. Okay. Spindle gouges need to be turned in front of the body, and typically, so they tend to have smaller handles. This one's actually 7 inches long. This little detail gouge is about pretty close, maybe about 8 inches long. Bowl gouges, you tend to want to make them larger, and scrapers, you want to have the amount that's the ratio of the handle to the amount that's overhanging about 7 to 1. So if that overhang is, let's say, 2.5 inches, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you got close to 7 inches from that pivot point. Now, one of the challenges we got with a mini lathe is just how long a handle we can make, and let me show you a couple of tricks on that. I'm going to turn this handle out of a piece of somewhat spalted maple, but it's strong. It doesn't have any punkiness to it. Somebody had given me a bunch of these pieces where they'd already ripped the sides off, so it's a octagonal figure. With the between centers limitation between the live center and the drive center, you're not going to be able to make your handle much bigger than about 14 inches. So first thing we're going to do is drill a hole, so let me show you that operation. Here's how I went about driving a hole. First we're going to drill a starter hole about 3/4 of an inch deep using a quarter inch drill bit, and it's real important that we square it up. So I'm using a block of wood. I've already checked this for square, and we line that up with a little starter hole I made with a dowel. Now I'm going to switch drill bits to one appropriate for the size tool I'm going to be using, which in my case I need something that fit 12 millimeter, which is a little bit less than a 1/2 inch, so I'm using a 15/16 drill bit, and that starter hole should make it a little easier for me to guide this again for a starter hole. And that's all I'm going to do for a starter on this. So we put our drill bit in a Jacob's chuck, and we seat it in our lathe. And if you don't have this, you can try to go ahead and drill it out completely the way I showed you, but it is going to be a little more difficult to get it to run straight for the full depth of usually anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 inches, depending on the size of your handle. But today's handle, we're making it 2 inches deep. Now, the constraint you can see here is you can't drive it directly down the middle using the tailstock. So that's why we had that starter hole, because we're going to take the tailstock off. Okay, we mount the final size drill bit into a Jacob's chuck. Mark tape on it on the depth, in our case 2 inches for the one we're going to be using. And if you don't have this, you're going to have to just drill it by hand as best you can, trying to keep it straight, and that can be a challenge unless you got a drill press. So we're going to turn that speed to somewhere maybe between 700 and 800. We're going to line this up as close as we can to being straight. Okay, time for a little problem solving. Who doesn't love problem solving? I think it's one of the things that makes wood turning fun. So here's the challenge. Now that we have a hole, we can fill that hole up and drive it between centers, and then we know it's going to we're going to turn the handle true based on the hole. Here's the challenge. This is less than the size of the hole. This is less than the size of the hole. So we got a problem here. We can either take a device like this, take this off, turn a Morse taper. I've got a video if you want to link to that. You can turn a Morse taper and then turn this down to just that it will fit in there slightly and slide on, and use a wooden drive center. And that works very effectively. Then this is still going to be the front of your tool, so this is where you're going to do a lot of the turning and doing the ferrule. The other way, let's knock that out, is to use your drive center, and we come up with something on this end. Now, one possibility is if you have a 60-degree cone, then that will work just fine in a hole. I mean, that's a great solution. But maybe you don't have a 60-degree cone. All you got is your original manufacturer drive. So, how do you solve it? Well, you can turn a cup that goes over that just fits it, tapers down just slightly, so it will fit that hole like that, and then that's how we're going to do it, and that's my preferred way of doing it. And then we tighten it up. Now, we can have the tailstock hang off almost halfway to give us the maximum size tool. So let's get to turning. So I'm sure some of you are asking, how do I turn a tool handle for my first tool? Well, which came first, chicken or the egg? One way is to take your round stick, drill a hole in it that's somewhat loose, because you're gonna, if you're using in my case where I'm using a carbide cutter, and you can use that temporarily and that'll work. But I go ahead and round it between the centers, get it perfectly round. Alright, now we're going to turn this down for a ferrule. You can use lots of different things for ferrule, but fortunately with this particular tool it came with a ferrule. So I'm going to set this the wood about a 1/16 inch proud, and I'm going to then mark it here and set that aside, and then bring it all the way around. Okay, and then now let's take that down. Let's kind of measure the inside of this. Beading and parting tool, but you could use a regular parting tool, a narrow parting tool, to take multiple cuts. I just find this one easier. Do that just a little bit before we take that measurement, and it's almost too loose. That's alright, so we'll tighten it up on the way back, and epoxy will handle the difference. And blend those two together. Okay, let's see how we're doing now. I want to chamfer that end just a tiny little bit. Just snip off the corner. Do a dry fit. And it looks like it'll almost work. But if we hammer it on there and it's too tight, it's liable to split that thin brass tubing. So let's go back to do it just one more time. We've got two ways. We can either glue this on, or we can tap it on. It's slid on, and we can take a punch a little hole in it to hold it in place. I think I'm going to go ahead and use some 5-minute epoxy and put that on there, and we'll be back. I like to do this early on so we can finish shaping the handle. It's not unusual for me to get comments about a long sleeve turning smock being unsafe. You know, life's full of trade-offs. In the wintertime, you know, it might be cool in your shop. I wear long sleeve shirts around the house in the wintertime, and I'm not going to bother to change. I put them on. I think the key thing is not having loose floppy clothes, keeping the sleeves very secure, and obviously being aware of what you're doing, because I don't even want my skin to get close to anything. So I tend to be mindful. I haven't come close to any accidents with a long sleeve yet. Storyboards are useful when you're trying to get duplicate parts, including handles. I made these some time back for a project my club had on turning several spindle and bowl handles, and we want them to be similar. So, for example, this one is very, very similar to this one, and this one is very similar to that one. So if you want to be making a bunch of handles you want them to look alike, use a storyboard. So I marked the key features. This being the thickest, this being the thinnest, and just taper off the handle so there's nothing particularly magic about it. Alright, now I'm going to use a spindle gouge. Kind of do some final trimming there on the corner. 3/8 inch gouge. Okay. I've got some little bitty ruffles there. I think I'm going to take my skew, see if I can't get a little bit of a smoothing cut there. Much better. Okay, switch back to the spindle gouge. Round over the butt of the tool. So I'm going to take maybe one pass with 120, and I'm going to use some sanding butter to keep the dust down. Coat this liberally. I'm going to slow the speed of the lathe down while I sand. Keep your sandpaper at an angle in case you got a little piece of grit in there. It won't make a radial line like this. Between grits, you always want to sand with the grain. Get rid of any radial scratches. I hope this video was helpful to you, showing you how you take a couple of spindle blanks and turning them into some beautiful handles using your Midi lathe. I've got another video for doing a handle on a full-size lathe, which offers less challenges than a Midi lathe, but that video also has some discussion about the appropriate length of the tool with more detail. So if you're interested in that, check out the link. Just remember, y'all stay safe. Come on back here.